talk about really now scaling Agile, okay? And talk about scaling this mindset and so forth. And with that, there's a question, sort of overarching theme to keep in mind, which is, do you want Agile teams or organizational agility? And these are two different things, and we'll explain that, okay? So, all right, so let's start by the definition of organizational agility. Organizational agility is a culture. Remember we said Agile is a mindset? So organizational agility is a culture. It's not a scaling of a process, it's a culture. This culture is in line with the values and principles of Agile, supported by the organizational ecosystem, and we'll explain that in a minute, right? And then manifested through personal and organizational habits. And this notion of habits is how work really gets done in an organization, okay? Now, here's a typical scenario of how organizations scale Agile. Meet Jack, okay? So Jack is the CIO of Future Corp. The IT organization is around 3,000 people. And his plan to transform to Agile looks something like this. Number one, train people across IT, right, on Scrum. Why? Scrum is what they heard of, it's popular. So they trained everyone on Scrum. Picked a star, right, in the organization, let's call her Stacy, and put her in charge of the transformation in addition to her day job, okay? They launched 2 pilot projects on Scrum, and it was great, it was successful. So he sent out a memo that we're moving to Agile /Scrum /Lean for all IT projects by the end of the year. Any questions? Good, all right, good. The plan is to launch 5 new teams every quarter, and the CIO is meeting monthly with Stacy to make sure that the plan is being executed. I mean, the guy's committed, right? And they're procuring an Agile tool to make sure that there's consistency and they can monitor that across the organization. So, what do you guys think? You guys like the plan? No. Why? Dictate from above, fixed mindset, all that. However, I can easily tell you this is the plan for 90% of organizations trying to scale Agile. It looks almost typical to this. Now, what we want to understand is the difference between a process adoption and a culture transformation. And here's where it gets tricky. That the IT environment, the IT sector as a whole, have used the word transformation, right, when they actually mean process adoption, okay? So anyone who's been in IT for a long period of time has been through a couple of transformations, and you know what those transformations are about. Are they about the left-hand side or the right-hand side? Are they about process or about organizational culture transformation? They're more about process, right? SAP, workflow, whatever it is. And we call these transformations. And because we call them transformations, we believe the Agile transformation should fit in the same bucket. I mean, we've done transformations before. What's going to be unique about this one? It's just another process. Well, let's take a look. In these process transformations or changes or whatever you want to call them, the focus is on processes and technology, right? On the other hand, an organizational cultural transformation, the focus is on people, okay? Very big difference here. The way things are decided, and as you said, it's sort of top down, it's done through these cascading decisions. CIO said, tell your direct report, tell the direct reports, and they keep going. Here, it's about creating a shared vision that everyone can sort of see, be inspired by, and buy into. On this side, it's about training. On this side, it's about education. Because this is about process, I'm going to show you how to do things. Here, I'm going to explain to you and help you understand the why and the underlying values and principles. Process change is about good communication. Right? They still have to exist. Great communication. Here's why we're doing it, blah, blah, blah. This is about buy-in. And then this is my favorite, of course. Process transformations, there's an element of compliance. How many teams have been doing it, who's not, who's transformed, who's not. Here it's about commitment. I can't go up to Brent and say, listen, starting tomorrow, I need you to have an Agile mindset, okay? And I'm going to audit that. I'm going to make sure, okay? You have 1 week to get a growth mindset. Any questions? All right, we're going to provide training for that. We can't do that. But what you need to do is a sense of commitment from people. That commitment, they are committing and saying, yes, we believe in the shared vision, we are educated, we are bought in, and we are committed. Do you see the difference? So this really hits the first major hurdle we have, which is we're not even focused on this. We're focused on this when we talk about transformations. Now, to make things worse, you're talking about an IT organization trying to do this. Are you on crack? Are you nuts? We've never done this. And going back to the analogy I gave earlier, right? It's like the assembly line workers, factory line workers saying, we have a better way to run the company. Dude, you have a better way to tie your shoes. Keep it at that level, right? And if you want to standardize tying shoes, yeah, okay, we could do that, but you're not going to change the culture of the company. So one of the major challenges we have is, for the first time in history, a culture transformation is being initiated by IT. A culture transformation, not a process transformation, right? And IT is still viewed, unfortunately, in large corporations as the assembly line, right? They're the workers. The business people think and innovate and do, and you just execute. So now we have quite an issue here. Good? Now, I'm going to give you an analogy I love. This analogy is about strawberry jam. You guys like strawberry jam? Yes? Okay, good. And I'm not talking about the diet kind. I'm talking about the nice homemade strawberry jam. So think of this. An agile team is like a strawberry. Okay? So when you start an agile team, what you've created is a good strawberry. It has taste, it has value, excellent. So you look at it and you say, I love it. So I want more strawberries. So you start launching more agile teams. Okay? Now, here's the difference. Here's the big difference. Organizational agility is not strawberries. It's strawberry jam. And it looks the same, right? These are strawberries and strawberry jam. What's the difference? No. These are two different things entirely. And you don't get strawberry jam by just putting more strawberries in a bowl. You don't get organizational agility by launching more agile teams. You know what you get? You get agile teams inside of a non-agile organization. That's what you get. And who's more powerful? The agile teams or the non-agile organization? The organization is more powerful. And that's where you see, sooner or later, those strawberries become puree. Right? Get smushed. And new CIO comes. That's it. What is that? What is that agile stuff? No. We're going back to our old way of working. Kill it. And I've seen that so many times. So here's the problem. That it's a facade. It's we don't understand this jump. We look at strawberries, we see success with agile teams, and we say, okay, let's keep going that route. Let's build more agile teams in hope to reach organizational agility. The problem is these are two totally different roads, and there is a point of transformation between them. And the interesting part is you can't get strawberry jam without strawberries. Okay? So we need to have some agile teams inside the organization. Right? We can't just create strawberry jam out of thin air. But there's a transformational point here. How do you create actually strawberry jam? Does anyone know?
Sweeten it hot.
Right? So we have lots of sugar, lots of heat, and lots of time. Can you accelerate it? See, that's the problem. Organizations want organizational agility yesterday. And they say, well, what can we do quicker? Nothing. You cannot just increase the heat, right, and get strawberry jam quicker. It takes time to simmer because you are transforming it. The other important point about transformation, and I want you really to think about this, can you transform strawberry jam back to strawberries? Never. Right? You can't change it back. So when organizations come to me and say, we've been through an Agile transformation 2 years back, and now we unfortunately sort of went back. I was like, you didn't go through an Agile transformation. What you had was a bunch of strawberries in a bowl, right? And someone come in and just smushed them. And you don't have them anymore. But if you really created a transformation, there's no way transforming back. You've changed the culture. That new CIO, he would have been rejected, not the organization, not all these teams. So the key point here for us is to understand, what are we going for? Right? What do you want? And you may simply want strawberries. And that's totally fine. Just understand the risk of it. But if you want strawberry jam, that's a different road. Now, you guys remember the definition of organizational agility, right? I'm going to talk about the why a little bit first, which is the first part. Okay? Organizational agility is a culture. Why would I want that culture? Okay? And the why is really what we've been talking about in the class so far, which is this. We are in a different era. The era of industrial age, assembly line mentality work is over, at least for knowledge workers. So if people view Agile as a nice to have, could help with some of our problems, and we can live without it, they're not transforming. But organizations and executives that view Agile as a necessity for the survival of the organization, they have enough heat to transform. This is my heat. What is the sense of urgency for Agile? Right? If it's a nice to have, yeah, those assembly line workers, those IT guys can use it if they want to. Or do whatever, as long as you deliver my stuff, do whatever you need to do down there. Right? If that's the attitude, no transformation is happening. None. But if the attitude of the organization, the why, the sense of urgency, the purpose is agility is viewed as a necessity. Right? Now, if you look at leadership here, and I've seen this many times, leadership have, on this side, they have what's called executive exploration. Okay, let's find out if this Agile thing is going to work, right? Cautious commitment, which is, yeah, go do it, but don't break anything, right? Don't. Yeah. Well, that's what I call a highly constrained green light. Yeah, go ahead and do it, but you don't have money, no dedicated resources, don't train anyone or just do internal training or whatever, right? It's highly constrained. Green light, go to Agile, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over here, if they view it as a survival mechanism, as the next frontier for the organization, there's what I call high-level executive commitment. There's no proof needed for Agile, right? We get it. We get it. We're in an age of innovation, and we need to become a technology organization. And there's an unconstrained green light. People, how do people view this? Do people view it as sort of, this is just an additional process I have to do now, more meetings, more stand-ups, more user stories, more tools, or do people view it as something that's going to actually help us? Guys, this is, before we even talk about techniques and anything, if people are here, you may be better off with strawberries, not strawberry jam. Okay? And then what you need to do to get them to here is education. So the conversation we had this morning, right, about Agile and the mindset and knowledge work and innovation and all that, I believe those are critical elements for executives to hear. And hopefully when they hear it, they'll understand why Agile is a necessity for the survival of the organization. Does that make sense? So the question then becomes, okay, we're bought in, we know Agile is the future of the organization. How do we get there? What do we need to do? So here I want to show you sort of a model I've been using, right? I want you to imagine here the organization consisting of the following: leadership, strategy, structure, process, and people. Okay? So let's talk about that for a minute. This is what we call the organizational ecosystem. Okay? Leadership. What's the style of leadership that we have? Collaborative, facilitative, command and control, servant, right? Whatever it is. What are their habits? What are their values? Strategy. How do we set goals and measures of success? How do we reward people? Right? Structure. What are the roles and responsibilities? How are we structured? How are decisions made? Processes. What does the complete value stream look like, right? And where is the business processes set up, and how are they set up, and all that? And then people, their values, their beliefs, their norms, their habits. Now, culture is the rubber band that is formed by these elements, right? So when people say, I want to change culture, what do you mean? You actually can't change culture. You can change the organizational elements that will change the culture. Make sense? And then this ecosystem, this entire ecosystem, this organization needs to be customer focused. Right? And this is the agility part. Because as this customer focus moves, can the organization move that quickly or not? Did you guys get it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, let's go back to this diagram for a second. Okay? Now, so we're square here that this is culture, right? It's this rubber band. Now, this rubber band is two things. It's formed as a result of the elements inside, and it keeps the elements inside intact, right? So it holds the elements inside intact. Now, here's what happens when people view Agile as simply a process. I want to change the culture, so I'm going to change the process. Are they changing the culture? They're straining the culture. They're creating a misaligned culture. Think about it. You have a collaborative process, but people don't believe in collaboration. People believe in competition. You have a collaborative process, but you have no structure for collaboration. You have a collaborative process, but people are rewarded for heroics and individualism. Leaders, do they believe in investing in collaboration? In spending time for people to gain context and collaborate? No, just get the work done. We don't have time for the touchy-feely stuff. Do you guys get the point here? So this is the problem. We're pushing, hoping for a culture change. And what do you think is going to happen as soon as this change element goes away? The rubber band is going to snap the process right back to where it was. Right? Those Agile coaches leave the organization. The CIO changes. The sponsor, the champion changes, whatever it is. And you're creating a strained culture. See, this is the most dangerous part about it. That this strained culture, you have taken what was a aligned culture, and you've suddenly created a misaligned culture. So why do we care about that? Well, let's take a look at the research. The research shows that the key distinguishing factor for high-performing organizations is a strong, integrated, and consistent culture. Guys, even if it's command and control, it's consistent. The people believe in it. Processes, structure, strategy are set based on that, and leaders believe in it. That's it. We have a strong, consistent culture. There's alignment where all the elements of the organization work in concert together. That's what makes organizations successful.
Except that if you've got a fixed mindset to culture, the customer's needs are often not being met?
It depends on the environment. So let me say this. With a fixed mindset culture, right, could be or could not be. It depends on if you're in knowledge work or you're in task work, right? So if you're in the construction industry, and that's really the point, you can live with a fixed mindset.
Yes.
It's okay. Maybe not be the best, but you'll live with it. But if you're in knowledge work, the problem is we're changing so rapidly. And if your culture isn't agile, isn't agility, isn't adaptive, isn't flexible, cannot move, then we got an issue. That's the whole point. And the number one impediment reported in scaling Agile over the past 6 years has been ability to change organizational culture. And the problem is, those words are wrong. Because you can't change the culture. You change the elements of the organization that are within the culture. See, that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to change the culture. What are you trying to change? Put up signs? Right? Be more collaborative. Be more collaborative. Right? Or do you equate process to culture? Because by changing process, you're aspiring to change culture. And look at the runner-ups here. Trying to fit agile elements in a non-agile framework. Fascinating. Right? Management support, general resistance to change. What are all these? These are all symptoms of the same problem. Now, let's take a look at how organizations are trying to transform today. Right? So essentially what we're trying to do here is take a traditional organization with a traditional mindset and transform it to an agile organization with an agile mindset, right? We're good? The two traditional approaches to doing that, one is called process-led, and the other is called team-led. So the process-led approach is what we just talked about, which is, I'm going to change the process. Now, the moment I change the process, this red sign, or the red color, means you have a misaligned culture. And the misaligned culture, the danger of the misaligned culture is this. Abort, abort, abort. Right? This transformation isn't good for us. It's not working for us. Stop the transformation. You have a high potential to abort the transformation when you have a misaligned culture. Now, I've seen organizations push, and push harder. And they could get some nudges. Right? They could get the people to change some of their habits and some of their beliefs. They could even get the structure to change, the strategy to change a little bit. But it's quite interesting because leadership rarely changes. Right? Because they don't think it's relevant to them. Or, worse, they're already agile. Right? They believe they're already agile. You talk to them and say, yeah, of course, we need to educate everyone. What about you, sir? No, listen, we're agile. We're as agile as you can get up here. There's always this chaos and change and all that. Well, hold on. That doesn't mean you're agile. That means you're firefighting, right? That means you're constantly in an emergency mode. That doesn't mean you have agility. Now, theoretically, you could keep moving, right, and eventually reach there. I have never seen those succeed. I have personally never seen them succeed. However, I will let it be out there that it could. And and let me say it this way. It may succeed in small organizations. May. Now, here's the common one that I see quite often, which is saying this. Okay, we like this agile thing, but we're not going to change the organization. Let's try it out. So they move one team to agile. So one team goes all out into agile, right? Now, keep in mind, this one team has got it right. Their leadership, strategy, structure, processes, and people, let's assume they got it right, okay? Just to make it easier on us. Now, this team is not in alignment with the rest of the culture. And this is where problems start. Because I've seen so many organizations where the people doing Agile are looked at as like, why are they doing Agile? Right? Why do they get to bypass the processes? Right? And it becomes, and I'm not kidding, a cult. Right? The Agile cult. the special ones. They get the team room. They get the coaches. They get the training. They get the consulting. What about the rest of us? And it immediately creates an us and them, a resistance factor in the organization. Now, the other thing you want to think about is people are coming in and out of this team, right? And this is where I say you start to get rogue Agile teams, right? It's not intentional. You get rogue Agile teams. Now, it could be intentional, where this team is actually creating a positive magnet towards others. Now, even if it is, there comes a period where we don't really know what the heck is happening, because all teams in the company are calling themselves Agile. And I've seen this so many times, right? Any team, yes, we're Agile, of course. It's the new thing, guys. We have to be Agile, because everyone is Agile, right? So you create this misaligned culture all over the place at this point. Assuming you could succeed, you start to move towards a consistent set of culture. Now, this same diagram, instead of teams, you can look at it as organizations, right? And what most people are doing is this. IT goes out on a limb. That's assuming IT got it right. So here you'd have the CIO and the directors and everyone. We got IT right. But the question here becomes, what about the rest of the organizations? Who do you think is going to win in this? Because remember, you have a misaligned culture now. IT wants to go iterative, but finance doesn't understand what you're talking about. I just need a number at the beginning of the year for your yearly budget. Yeah, but we're trying to do iterative. Yeah, do whatever you want, just give me a number. HR, we're trying to look at, collaborative reward. Yeah, do whatever you want. So there's a performance, we can change the performance. No. Performance reviews, we're going to have to do them individually because that's our policy. Right? These have no clue what's happening, and you're trying to create a new culture. Well, the reality is you have a little subculture here. That's all you have. And you're not aligned with the rest of the company, which still means this rubber band could snap you back in place at any point in time. Here's where I've seen this work. When IT is influential. When IT is not a small part of the company, right? When IT is not 5 or 10% of the annual spend, it's when they're 30, 40, 50% of the annual spend. Okay, IT has moved. Y'all better come. Okay, but still, there's a tension here, right? And it could go either way. Does this make sense so far? Now, what we want to do is we want to move the entire triangle together. We do not want to create a strained culture, because any strained culture is bad. Any misaligned culture is bad. So what we want to do is move the entire organization. Now, this is not crazy talk. Experts in organizational scaling and scaling up excellence. This is a great book, just published this year, right? Called Scaling Up Excellence. Please, phenomenal book. It says here, when big organizations scale well, they focus on moving 1,000 people forward 1 foot at a time, rather than moving one person forward by 1,000 feet. Instead of taking one organization or one team to Agile and leave us all in the dark ages, right? No, we're going to move the entire organization one little baby step at a time. So we're going to look at the human elements of the triangle and the non-human elements of the triangle, right? We have both. This triangle is consistent of both. So here's what we want to do. We want to take the triangle, human and non-human, and move it one piece. So there's a change in leadership, style, habits, norms. There's a change in strategy, structure, process, people. There's a change in all of that, but very small. And another change, and another change, and another change, till we reach the new state. That's our goal, okay? Now, here's the challenge, folks. This is much easier said than done, okay? So we're going to get practical in a minute, but don't worry, right? So this approach takes time. Takes lots of time. And if you don't see the end state, you will abort. So what you want to do, and this is a great quote again, it's essential to identify a template, right, that can be seen and touched in a single specific location, which is your strawberries. So what you want to do is do this. You want to start moving the entire organization and have one or two teams sort of be exemplified. Okay? Right? So you want to take one or two teams, show what the end result is going to look like, but the difference here is everyone has embarked on a journey. It's not they're doing Agile and we're doing nothing. It's we're all moving towards Agile, right? We're all transforming, and these guys are just showing us what the end result looks like. And that's okay, because new teams may spin up as we're doing this, and that's totally fine. But keep in mind, the whole organization is transforming here. Do you guys see it? Very different approach. Do you guys remember this picture? Yes?
Yes.
It's the same thing. The process-led approach is a linear approach to transformation. It's a very linear approach, which you believe you have what the end result looks like in mind, and we're moving the process towards that. We're moving the strategy and people towards that, right? And it's additive. The organizational-led approach is still in my head the same thing. It's a linear approach. You start with one team, then another, then another, then another. Because here's the thing, folks. You don't... See, again, what's the goal? An Agile team or an Agile organization? In an Agile organization, you've moved the entire organization towards agility. Here you've moved one team towards agility. This is not an Agile organization. This is. Right? It's a little bit of Agile, but it's the entire organization. And here's the most critical part. If you stop here in the middle, for whatever reason, you have chaos, value. I haven't finished the journey. Okay. But I don't have a mess, and I've seen organizations here, and I don't have whatever this thing is at this point. Total misalignment, resistance, lack of buy-in for everything. This is what this looks like. But here, you could theoretically stop at any point, and you can keep going. There's no end state. And this is part of, I believe, one of the challenges even applying traditional change management to these kind of transformations, because change management says, what's my beginning state? What's my end state? And where's the gap? Well, if the end state keeps moving, or we don't know what the end state looks like because we're changing culture, right? Or, sorry, to correct my own self, we're changing the element side of the organization.